Hello and welcome everybody to our Women's Sports Club Q1 virtual meeting. We're just going to give it another 60 seconds. We got a bunch of folks in the waiting room. We're going to let everybody file into our virtual meeting room and we'll kick off in a minute or two. Make sure to say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're from, what you're doing, go into the Final Four, say hi, plug your stuff. That's why we're here. And we'll kick off in a few moments. Welcome, welcome.
1 second here.
All right, see some familiar faces. Hello, everybody. Feel free to pop on camera or hide. We love seeing faces. Hey, oh, hi, Cassidy. Long time. Oh, so many great folks joining us today. All right, we got a few more filing in. As we go today, if you have questions, please also use the chat to pop in questions. I'm a real fast talker, so sometimes I don't notice, but I'll always go back at the end and we'll get to your questions for me, for Sports Innovation Lab, for Paramount, for each other. This is a club. It's a community. Talk to each other. That's what we love to see. All right. Okay, to my recording. All right, we're at 2:02. We are going to go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to Sports Innovation Lab's Women's Sports Club first meeting for 2025 in the quarter. Thank you guys so much for spending an hour with us. If you don't know me, my name is Gina Waldhorn. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Sports Innovation Lab. Since we're talking women's sports, I think it's critical. You all know that I was the Boca Middle Cobras 1991 champion point guard for our amazing season. That is pretty much the women who I was probably neck and neck with, but who went on to surpass me in their athletic careers. And if you're wondering, for a lot of folks we invited today who may not be regular members, this might be your first Women's Sports Club virtual session. So welcome to you. And you might be wondering, who are you? Who is Sports Innovation Lab? Where did this club come from? So a little bit of quick background if you don't know. Sports Innovation Lab, we are a data, insights, and analytics company that helps sports organizations, all sports organizations, brands who sponsor teams, leagues, properties, venue, find, connect, acquire their future fans. And we call those fans the fluid fans. They are the next gen fans, and we believe
All right, is Gina frozen for everyone?
I was just gonna have the same
Yes,
thing.
I thought it was just me.
Oh,
Gina, you keep freezing.
You're
Just
frozen.
FYI.
no. Well, let's see then. Let me, I could try, let's see what's going on with my internet. It looks okay. How am I doing now?
Now you're good.
You're good now.
Good.
Am I good now? Okay. I've got my phone in front of me, so yell again if I cut out again. All right. So what I was saying, I'm going to go through a lot of data today on women's sports. And if you're curious where that data comes from, the problem that Sports Innovation Lab is solving and the data that we have generated is all to try to improve the way that brands and sports organizations see fans today. So today, when you think about understanding who a fan is, you're usually limited to pulling together data from disparate sources. Maybe you're seeing someone as a fan because of what they watched, or maybe who they follow on social media, and you're kind of calling that person a fan. Sports Innovation Lab takes a different approach, and we're able to tell our clients and our partners who a fan is through a holistic view of what teams, leagues, brands, venues, betting, everything that they do in the context of sports and entertainment. And we believe that is more representative of the future fan, who we call the fluid fan. How we're able to create that profile, we've designed a fluid fan graph. It is anchored in a consumer data cloud that has been purpose-built for sports and entertainment. Our consumer data cloud covers pretty much the entire US, so we're looking at about 250 million US consumers. But where it gets really interested is we've anchored that cloud in transactional data. So we're able to see everything these consumers buy at an individual row level. And we've gone ahead and created a unique ontology just for sports media and entertainment. So that means we've found every team, every league, every venue, every betting platform. So the FanDuels and the DraftKings, but also the Underdogs and the Prize Picks and the PointsBet. And every merch provider. So sure, we're looking at Fanatics, but we're also looking at Playa Society and Rally House and Breaking Tea. And the emerging leagues like Unrivaled and 3-on-3s and 3Ice and everything that really is the long tail that shows us who somebody really is, how they behave, all through the context of sports media and entertainment. So that's who Sports Innovation Lab is, and being founded by 4-time Olympic athlete Angela Ruggiero, building up women's sports and pointing an engine like this at women's sports is in the DNA of our company. So we've been bringing this fluid fan data and community to women's sports really hardcore since 2021. That's when we launched our research called the Fan Project, which is all about using consumer data to unlock the business potential of women's sports. And we've continued to publish industry-leading research that, again, anchors in transactional data, anchors in who women's sports fans are, to give media agencies and brands the business case that they need to invest more in women's sports. And in 2002, we decided to start bringing together a community of like-minded executives who also wanted to accelerate the investment into women's sports in the form of our Women's Sports Club. Our mission, this is on our website, this is everywhere. We want to increase the dollars spent on women's sports media and sponsorship. So we know there's a vicious cycle out there. We know we need more capital investment. We want to pay athletes more. We want purpose-built venues. There's a lot of work still to be done in women's sports. The Women's Sports Club is hyper-focused on media and sponsorship. So we exist to build this business case for women's sports, connect the buy and the sell ecosystem. And from our hundreds of members, we have a lot from the buy side, brands and agencies, as well as the sell side, properties and media companies. And we're really looking to kind of find the middle ground around data and insights so that we can break down barriers and see more money flow between those two sides. A few highlights of how the club has evolved, getting us to today, 2025, our kind of first meeting of the year. In 2022, we were all about, let's find the like-minded champions. Who are the individuals at certain brands and properties and agencies who are beating the drum, pre-Caitlin Clark era, saying women's sports is undervalued, we all need to spend there. Let's bring them together and let's start identifying the barriers prohibiting and limiting spending in women's sports. So we started a club and we found those individuals, and shout out ESPN. We kicked off at the ESPNW Summit that year with a private session. Cut to 2023, we grew the club tremendously. Ally came on as a founding partner to help us get the club more scale. We set the mission and hyper-focused on media dollars and sponsorship, and really worked on building that ecosystem of buyers and sellers. Because like I say in a lot of our networking sessions, if you've been to them where I'm hosting, it's great to make friends and have drinks, but we're here to do deals. And so we also in 2023 took a hyper focus on deals and started to surface the data necessary to prove the value, the ROI of those deals. Cut to last year, we took that one step further. We had a fantastic partnership with Trailblazing Sports Group. So shout out Trisha and Sarah, you guys are on the line. And we hosted the first ever women's sports NewFront. And that took us one step further to actually pair inventory with our data and performance media and bring the buy ecosystem something they could really sink their teeth into, and give women's sports media and sponsorship a stage that they hadn't had before in the form of the New Friends. So we accomplished a lot. We think the whole ecosystem evolved while the club was running, which is fantastic. We're kind of like, hey, turns out we were all right. Look, women's sports is the shit. But our mission has always been, as we have, again, on the website, to accelerate and commercialize women's sports. And we want to always make sure that whatever value the club brings, it's focused on that. So while community building is great, research is great, we're going to continue to do that. We wanted to think about what comes next in 2025. How do we keep bringing all of you guys what you need now and next to keep accelerating that investment? And so I'm super excited to announce today a big evolution for the club. A new announcement is that in 2025, we're going to take a laser focus on AI. And I think this is critical because a lot of women's sports properties don't have a massive data science or analytics team. They're using AI tools. We're talking about AI, but they don't necessarily have the infrastructure or the FTEs to be crunching their own first P data and enriching it and appending it and running it through models and training their own models. And that's okay because we can use AI as an equalizer. When all the men's teams are worried about, oh no, AI is going to take our jobs, the women's sports properties are like, we didn't have those jobs to begin with. So hooray, let's have AI slot in and help us find efficiencies, growth, and optimizations in our business to help be an equalizer and accelerate our opportunities to drive media and sponsorship revenue. Where do we think that actually can plug in? Things like understanding what AI tools can be used for predictive ticket yield management models, or how we can create insight models to help you quickly segment your fans faster in finding similarities or anomalies or patterns so you can design fan experience or think about merch differently. How can you use existing AI tools within some of the advertising suites that you might already be subscribed to help your working media work faster, or the media for your sponsors perform better? Or how can all of these different agents out there, from the ChatGPTs to the Perplexities to the Claudes, help you with things like customer service or talking to fans or talking to each other in your organization? So we know there's a lot out there. There's a lot of thought leadership. There's a lot of pontification. There's a lot of Substacks. The Women's Sports Club believes that in 2025, we can help you cut through a lot of that clutter, and we can provide some hands-on training and access to some of the AI tools that you can start using today. Some of it uses your own data. You don't need any other data. Some of it uses partner data. Some of it uses your sponsors' data. Some of it can use our data. We're going to help you navigate it all. We're super thrilled to announce that Microsoft has partnered with the Women's Sports Club and Sports Innovation Lab for this initiative, and we're calling it the AI Advantage, and it's launching in April. And so this is a training course. We're going to hold 4 sessions dedicated to bringing you a little bit of inspiration and thought leadership in terms of how should I be thinking about this, but not too much of that because there's enough of that going around. We really want to help you define the landscape. What are all these companies? What do all these terms mean? And how do they relate to my business and different components of my business? We want to get hands-on keyboards, breakout sessions, demos, open up your computer, put this data into an Excel. Now let me show you how to run this Copilot thing, and it's free or it's $50. Like, we don't want a high barrier to entry, and have you leave these sessions feeling like more confident, more educated, and with some of the skills to start using these AI tools today to optimize your business. And then it's a club, so we'll have great networking, and again, see if we can get some deals done while we're having champagne after our AI session. There is no cost to join this program. We are thankful for our sponsors and our partners, but we do want to make sure it's limited seating capacity for in-person. Anybody can join virtual if you're a club member, and we do want to make sure we have the right executives in the room. So there is an application, but we'll put that in the chat. We want you to apply. We want you to come. Like I said, 4 different sessions. This is just going to be a fantastic initiative that we're thrilled to focus the club on this year. Put any questions, thoughts, feedback in the chat as well on that. And we dropped a link in there for you to apply for the AI Advantage program. Kicking off April 17th at the beautiful Microsoft Garage. If you haven't been to the space, it's killer. It's in Soho. It's awesome. Okay, what else do we have? Oh, this is a little bit more of who should attend. It really will span the gamut. So if you're sponsorship or sales team and you want to use AI for faster deck building or creating insights or deal analytics, if you're working on media and content, we're going to have some interesting partners come in and show us how to use AI for clips and highlights and distribution. If you're focused on fan engagement, we're going to see how you can use your first-party data to derive insights that might glean interesting experiential recommendations. We might focus on ticket and revenue, and we want to hear from you. So from this meeting, email us, chat us. What would you like to learn more about when it comes to AI, and what are some challenges you've kind of maybe heard that AI can help you solve, but you want to see it for yourself? We want to show you. Again, that program is going to kick off in April and go all year with 4 sessions, and we'll give you those dates as they roll out. But a few other events where the Women's Sports Club will be touching down include the Women's Final Four in Tampa. I'll be there. Sarah and Trailblazing will be there. If you're going to be there, put it in the chat. There's a few different events we know going on, so let us know. We're not hosting anything official as the club, but we love to hear when other members are going to be around, and we'll make some introductions and find some, put a card down at the bar for a happy hour. And then in June, August, and October, we'll have the additional sessions for the AI leadership. We're going to touch down in Cannes. We'll be hosting a C-suite lunch. If you have a member of, if you are in the C-suite, you have a member,
I will drink it.
you would like to nominate for that, please let me know. We'll also be hosting a couple different panels. We're doing an amazing partnership with Front Office Sports, and the Women's Sports Club will be hosting an event in association with their honors program. They haven't set a date for that. It's going to be in the fall. So we'll let you know. And then we're going to bring back Club Women's Sports at Advertising Week. So along with our AI sessions, you can expect us to show up at these additional 3 events. And then you never know, we're considering popping up at Athlos, at US Open, maybe a WNBA All-Star again. We might host another brunch. So again, want to hear from the members. Where are you going to be? Where is it valuable for the club to pop up? Okay, I briefly mentioned the Front Office Sports Honors Program. So this is an exciting new awards program that Front Office Sports had launched. Sports Innovation Lab is the official methodology partner for their most innovative awards group. And calling that out because we want to see more women's sports partnerships, brands, properties get more recognition. So there are 8 different categories. The applications are now open. If you have any questions, if you're curious about how you can use some data for your applications, we're an objective third party, so we have a scoring methodology and things like that, but you don't need to worry about that. We just want to encourage you to apply. And if you have any questions or, about the application, about the fee, we can give some discounts. Please let us know. We want to see more women's sports organizations, partnerships take the stage and get recognized for the very creative, impactful, and ROI generating partnerships that we see in the market every day and that we don't see enough on award stages. So again, we'll pop a link into that. Definitely apply. Applications will be open for the next, 2 to 3 months. Okay, another exciting initiative that we want to announce for the club. On National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, we ran a really fun one-day program where we said, we'll go ahead and dive into our fan graph and our sports data cloud that I gave you a little taste of at the beginning of the presentation, and we'll create an insight for you. We'll answer a question about what teams or leagues are top for your consumers, or we'll flip that and tell you what brands are favorites of the fans of your property. There's a lot of different ways we can slice and dice this data to create some really compelling insights about just how valuable fans of women's sports are to specific categories or specific brands. So Peyton's going to go ahead and pop a link. And this is an example of 2 of the insights that we generated, one for Adidas, one for Domino's, where we were able to let them know of those consumers who buy Adidas products, what are their top 3 women's sports leagues? And for Domino's, we were able to tell them for the top spenders at Domino's, who are their favorite teams nationally? And we've got all sorts of interesting ways that we can answer questions like this. So please, we're going to put a link in. Go ahead, register, like fill out the form, pick a question you want us to answer, and we'll send you back a fantastic insight just like this one. This is open. We closed it after National Girls and Women's in Sports Day to the broader industry because it's a lot of work. But for club members, we'd love to continue to do this. So take us up, free insights, put what you'd love us to pull from the cloud, and we'll send you something like this back, and you can put it in sales decks or put it on LinkedIn and tag the brand that you're talking about to get them interested in your property. A lot of cool stuff we can do with these insights. Oh, this is what it looks like. So this is what the form looks like. You'll be able to drop down, pick from 3 or 4 different questions, add in the brand you want us to look at or the category, and we'll get back to you. And you won't be able to find this form except through the link that Peyton drops in. So if you lose it, ping us. We'll send this deck after the call as well that has all the links. All right, so with that, we got a lot going on with the club this year. We've got the AI Advantage program. We're going to be touching down at a lot of different big events. We're going to be bringing you different insights. We're going to be continuing to foster an ecosystem of buy and sell. We are updating our directory since we had a lot of new members at the beginning of the year. So we'll be issuing that at the end of the quarter. So you can see all the different folks in the membership. But with that, we are very excited today, since we are all about data and research, to welcome Mary Kate Callan from Paramount Advertising, a steward of their incredible research and this new piece of research for the win. So if there's no other questions, or we'll get to questions at the end, I'm going to turn over a lot of the rest of our session for Mary Kate to bring you through this fantastic piece of research. And don't forget, as she goes, drop questions into the chat and we'll help moderate the chat when you're finished presenting. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And I'm going to kick it over to you, Mary Kate.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. I didn't know that we were showing photos of ourselves from our glory days, but I'm Mary Kate Callan, former high school tennis team captain, go Rams, for the Carmel High School excellent tennis team. So I don't have a photo, but that is my claim to fame. Are we seeing the full screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
great. So thank you so much for that warm introduction. I'm here to share a bit from a new study we've done that we call For the Win: 7 Myths and Truths That Brands Need to Know About Women's Sports Fandom. And I am confident that none of these insights are going to be a gigantic surprise to the folks that are gathered around this call. But as there's been so much conversation in the industry, wanted to dispel some myths and create some kind of commonalities in the way to think about women's sports fandoms, because there are a lot of information out there. So I'm Mary Kate Callan. I'm Senior Vice President of on our Audience Impact and Intelligence team. And what we do, we work within our ad sales division. We're a collaborative group of strategists, researchers, left and right brain thinkers. And what we like to say is we help to provide audience-forward, culturally fluent insights, because it is an ever-changing marketing and media ecosystem that can always use some helpful navigation. And then, of course, at Paramount and at CBS Sports, we are really focused on investing in and championing women's sports. So it's something that we all feel very passionate about and have over 600 hours of programming across CBS Sports on a whole variety of different women's sports, as well as in-studio programming like Attacking Third or We Need to Talk, which just celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. So lots of investment and conversation and internal passion for women's sports. So we wanted to do this study to really help to, find some navigation as we continue to see momentum in the marketplace overall. And it's no surprise, no question for anyone on this group that women's sports are having a moment. It's a great moment. It feels like a big moment. And by all quantifiable metrics that we see across the board, whether it's viewership, whether it's expansions of new teams across leagues, whether it's investment from advertisers, or ultimately that economic impact with $1 billion expected revenue by the end of 2024, which is up 300% from the projection in 2021. So we see women's sports feels like it's everywhere. It's on magazine stands. It's, in the marketing conferences, it's in the trades. It is surround sound at this point. But it's also a reminder and a good zoom out moment to say, of course, we didn't get her overnight. It's been 50 years since Billie Jean King fought for equal pay, equal prize money at the US Open. And we've had an incredible run of big moments of momentum, of game-changing things that have happened over the course of the last several years. So it's a good reminder, whether it's from the National Women's Soccer League forming and having 8 different clubs, whether it's Simone Biles being the most decorated woman gymnast, whether it's Ellie the Elephant having her viral moment. We have had an incredible, last few years where we've seen a lot of momentum in women's sports. And it feels like it's at a tipping point. We have a quote. I know, Heather, you worked on Angel City Football Club. We have a quote from Willow Bay here, who is, a co-owner and also overall icon, saying that right now this moment feels different, right? It feels fan driven. It feels more powerful. And so it does feel like we're at this tipping point for women's sports. So we thought now is the time to do a little bit of research, a little bit of, kind of looking deeper under the hood. We've seen lots of conversation, a lot of data, a lot of research on different leagues, on, different athletes, and really wanted to focus this on the fans. Who are women's sports fans? What are they passionate about? What are they interested in? What do they want to learn and understand? And we do this in the service of the brand partners we work with. So thinking about it through the lens of how can you show up most authentically in the moments where you're connecting with women's sports fans in a way that is, steeped in what they're very interested in. So as with everything that we do, it's a multi-layered methodology. We do a lot of in-depth interviews with fans. We do trend and culture analysis. We did a survey of 4,000 people, as well as in this project, we worked with See Her and did some GEM testing, their gender equality metric, to understand some of the advertising that we do and how to portray women and girls in advertising in a way that feels really relevant and resonant to the audience. So note, this is a representative sample. We did ask across sports whether you're fans of any of the, kind of women's sports that we've listed here. We've generalized this, to be women's sports fans, but of course there would be nuance between particular sports if we dive deeper into the data. So without further ado, we have discovered 7 myths and truths about women's sports fans and what brands need to know to connect with them. So I'll start with the first myth. The first myth being that only women care about women's sports. If it says the word women, it must be for women. And the truth here is that men actually make up more of the fan base. It's about 50-50, but 52% in the study we did of all women's sports fans are men, more likely to be a women's sports fan. And thinking about the momentum I was speaking about earlier, men are 23% more likely to say that their interest has grown in women's sports in the last year. So we see this, of course, in the data that we fielded, but also in culture. You see this tale of two Jasons here, and whether it's investment, in women's sports leagues or just overall hype with Jason Sudeikis wearing the "Everyone Watches Women's Sports" t-shirts, with apparently is a $6 million t-shirt like that it has generated. I hadn't heard that. I heard that yesterday. So we all should have had that idea is really the takeaway here. But that is, a truth of when we think about women's sports fandom, of kind of who makes up the fan base. The second myth is that the fan base for women's sports is extremely narrow. It is extremely niche. It is not mainstream, and it is a narrow fan base. And the truth we found here is that the masses are here. 95% in the study we did said that they identify as a big or casual women's sports fan, with only 5% saying that they are not yet a fan. Of course, this doesn't equate to 95% of folks watching every single women's sports. But when you think about saying that you are a fan, it's interesting for us because we do tons of fandom research, and usually saying that you're a fan of something actually is kind of a high bar, because people always think, oh, somebody else is more of a real fan than I am. I don't want to say I'm a fan of Star Trek, of Survivor, of what the fandom research we do, because you always feel like someone is likely a bigger fan. So it's actually kind of surprising that so many people would say, absolutely, casual, big, I am a fan. And even the people we talked to who said they were not yet a fan really were having a little bit of FOMO. They, like Cade here says, noticing the level of competition, the level of skill, and the athleticism. So, even folks who were not considering themselves a fan had noticed the conversation and the momentum around women's sports. And another nuance within this is that those who are fans, which we've established are many, say that they're eager to get deeper. They are wanting to know athletes on a more personal level. So we asked the question of kind of what topics make fans feel most connected to female athletes. And the topics are really personal, from family, mental health, background, upbringing. And when we look at this on a generational level too, we see 85% of Gen Z fans agree that hearing the personal stories of women athletes makes me want to watch their games. So you get this increased investment when you understand the backstory and understand the detail of, what a female athlete has gone through in their life. You're more invested in the game, as Ashley says here. So obviously popularity, podcasts have had, so much opportunity to get deep. Something like A Touch More is a great example of this, with Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe talking deeply with the folks that they have on their podcast to talk about those backstories. It's a great example. The third myth is that it's all on the leagues to secure an equitable future for athletes. It's solely the responsibility of the leagues to get to a pay equity conversation. And the first thing to note here is that it is important for fans. Fans do care about this. When we ask them what their hopes and what their fears are for female athletes or for women's sports in general, their number one hope is that they're paid the same as male athletes, and their number one fear is that they won't get paid what they deserve. And so this is a big at the forefront for a lot of folks who are watching women's sports. If you haven't seen this adorable kid basketball player who his mom quizzes him on how much he thought Caitlin Clark's contract was, and he is shocked by how out of whack it is with his expectations. And so, this is at the forefront of people's minds when they're thinking about women's sports. But the interesting nuance here is that fans see themselves as being an important part of leading the charge to pay equity. They're eager to build the business case. I think what's interesting here is that people are really savvy these days on the business of entertainment, sports, and media, and understand the relationship between viewership, ticket sales, and ultimately how people are compensated. And so they really understand the mechanics of that, and so feel a responsibility. They feel equal responsibility of fans and media companies, followed by league leadership, and ultimately coming in third is brands, which I know there's some brands on the line. We found 63% of Gen Z fans, we cut this data in this way because a few people had asked us about sort of generational questions, say that they're more likely to pay attention to brands that show up for women's sports. So brands have a role as well in that support because they know also in the business of and the mechanics of things that sponsorships and, brand deals are a big part of the, the compensation that female athletes are getting. The fourth myth is that women's sports are everywhere. And I was perpetuating this myth in my intro by saying, isn't women's sports everywhere? But the interesting thing here is that there is a difference between buzz and accessibility, right? Like it feels like it's everywhere. But the truth is that it does take work to be an engaged fan of women's sports, right? Even fans who have a favorite team or a league struggle with the how and the where to tune in, right? There's been long established dates and times that men's sports are played. And so finding the kind of where exactly I can see this league or see this team tune in is a barrier for watching women's sports. That's the number one barrier. I don't know where or when to watch. And 86% of fans agree that they'd watch more if they knew exactly when and where to tune in. So we thought an interesting example, kind of, a grassroots approach to this is a Portland pub called the Sports Bra, which was a pub that was showing exclusively women's sports, such an amazing example. And then most recently has partnered with Alexis Ohanian's 776 company to franchise this out to be nationwide because it was such a successful concept. So kind of teeing into that insight of like, how do I find this and creating the space for fans to be together. The fifth myth is that women's sports are just sports. And we actually really struggled with this when we were doing the research, thinking, are we making too much of this by adding this qualifier? Are we saying, women firefighters when we don't really need to say that? It's sports are sports. Are we making too much? And that is, something that's actually a bit nuanced, what we found in the data. The core part, the DNA of what fans love about women's sports and men's sports is the same. The talent, the stats, the rivalries, the underdogs, the gameplay is the same regardless of who is playing the sport. It's about those points of excitement, of impressive talent, of feats of athleticism. It's about the traits that people admire in athletes, which are the exact Venn diagram of skilled, hardworking, or a team player. Female athletes and male athletes, we see a true overlap in terms of what the expectation is and what drives people to love women's sports as much as men's sports. But the difference and the nuance here is that fans tend to see women's sports as something bigger. There's both a societal implication as well as a personal implication. So we heard a lot of folks talking about, again, the equal pay and the recognition, and feels like that adds a layer of significance to the games, making them more than just sports events, but also moments of social change. We saw that was the number one reason that people listed when we asked, why are women's sports significant? They said it's because it represents this progress in gender equality. And the second component is about helps me spend quality time with people I love. And we heard this particularly from parents as they watch with their kids and feel like there's a conversation to be had about role models. And we'll get into that a little bit in the next myth. But those are the two parts where it becomes slightly nuanced from women's sports being sports. And the sixth myth is that women's sports fandom is just about the athletes. There's been a handful of, household names that have come to the forefront over the last couple of years, Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese, where it's really about those individuals and it's not really about the sport or the club or the league or the fandom overall, but it's about those athletes. That's the myth. But the reality is that fans find the culture of women's sports refreshing. So they're finding that this, sort of differences in the way that they perceive women's sports being both passionate while also supportive, by being competitive while also being positive, ultimately being empowering, with 87% agreeing that women's sports have an inclusive culture. And that is even more true when we cut the data by parents. And so there's a real feeling that this is important for future generations. 93% agree that female athletes are important role models for all children, not just girls. And there's just a feeling that there's, it's about the culture of women's sports as much as it is about the individual athletes. And the final myth here is that this is just a fleeting moment. For this group, of course not, but by next year, we'll be all talking about something else. But the reality is that women's sports are poised to persist, and fans are really hoping and banking on it. So all signs point to growth, tons of data signals out there in terms of value projections, the economic impact that Gina was talking about, the advertising investment, the investment in leagues is all pointing to signs of growth and not slowing down. And then we also asked fans, how would you feel if women's sports went away tomorrow? And they said concerned, sad, disappointed. Skyly here said she would riot. So, be concerned. But yes, there is a real passion for this, and people want to make sure that they understand how they can, continue to support women's sports. So what should brands do? We usually end any, presentation. We talk to a lot of brands and a lot of marketers. And so usually we try and make a synopsis here where we get to the core of a couple of recommendations. So the first one is around women's sports are for everyone. They're for men and women. They're for adults and kids. And to, when you're thinking about creative or you're thinking about marketing, to have that audience in mind, because you'll really be able to understand and reflect their, nuances there. And I'm sure, Gina, you can give a lot of intricate detail and data on exactly who's watching exactly what sport to get even more nuanced, but generally not to make assumptions is probably the first place to start. And then 2 is the fans find the culture of women's sports to be refreshing for its positivity, for its support. So really leaning into culture and celebrating athletes for the role models they are. The third one is about the fact that fans are really looking to deepen their emotional investments by getting to know athletes. So as you put athletes at the forefront, give them a platform to introduce themselves, tell their personal stories, because that's allowing fans to go deeper and feel even more invested in the sport when they tune in. And then finally, fans really want to make a difference by showing up, by investing, by tuning in, and kind of showing their support in the ways that they can. So finding easy ways and tangible ways to allow fans to show up and see their impact is a great opportunity for brands. And then we do tons of this, of course, at Paramount. We have lots of, as I said, women's sports programming, but we also do a lot of surround sound with partners around the CBS Sports Creator Studio we do custom marketing, and then, of course, social campaigns as well to help brands really connect with women's sports using these insights, and then also, using the access and incredible talent we have to be able to build campaigns and custom content that can really tap into the fandoms in unique and interesting ways. So that is all I have to share. Oh, I do have a slide that has a QR code to download this report. We've made it, downloadable version, but we'll also send, a link that you'll have in the follow-up to this. So don't feel like you need to take out your phones now.
This is amazing. Thank you so much. So this is a club, it's a community. Who's got some questions for Mary Kate on the research, something you'd like to see, or feedback, or just comments or case studies? Did any of this resonate? Have you found that these myths are impeding getting deals done or working with brands? Or where are you seeing some of these myths really start to dissipate, and what's working for you? Would love to make this a conversation. Feel free to just yell out or put that little hand up. Christine, what's up?
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, everyone. This is amazing. My name's Amy Lieber, and I've been in media sales forever, and not a athlete by any means, but I've played sports my whole life. That said, I believe in this space so much, and I need to figure out how I can get involved appropriately. But hearing all of this data and research, which I just love, and knowing that, that if the responsibility is on the fan and the media company to keep this going, right? And Mary Kate, your team is selling, right, the media for this. How is your audiences, like who you're selling to, how are they responding to this research? Are they digging it? Are they believing it? Are they blowing holes in it? How's it going out there?
Yeah, great question. I would say, the first round of this has only been out for a couple of weeks. So a lot of the conversations we've been having have been with a lot of like-minded folks, right? So a lot of folks who are leaning in, engaged, interested, sort of bought into the concept and looking for opportunities and ways to make those recommendations to, to either their brand partners if they're on the media agency side, or, kind of make the case. So I would say, for the most part, we've seen tons of head nods and tons of like a thankfulness of kind of putting all of the information in one place, like all the fan, information. And then I would say, the other thing I think we're hearing is, there's a lot of interest and investment and a little like gold rushiness, of like this, so like having some feedback from fans of like what would make it authentic for a brand to engage in this space so it doesn't feel like I'm just on to the next thing is the other thing we're kind of, in conversation with a lot of clients about is like I want to be in this space, but I don't want to be perceived as being in the space because everyone else is in the space. I want it to come across really authentically. And I feel like that's the other, kind of tenor of conversations we're having. Does that track?
Yeah, and I'll just add on, I think some of the points in the research provide really compelling hooks. So I especially found when you were talking about the value of the individual athlete, and someone in the chat popped in from Clemson and said they can validate what you're seeing. And we also saw that the amount of conversations taking place during a season by sports fans of women's sports is 4 times that of men's sports fans, and they're engaging with the athletes, and they're just better marketers. And I always say, because they had to be, they didn't have an agency behind them pumping out their content. Like they had to hustle. They didn't get the same compensation. And so they were like, I got to get my own brand deals. And it made for better marketers. These female athletes are just more engaging. They have higher engagement rates. They have better followers. And I think the brands are seeing that, but sometimes they just need the data so that the media team can kind of put it to rest and get it on the plan. And I think Paramount bringing some of that specific data on the fan engagement, on the value of the athlete as a media channel is really what we're seeing the brands and the media agencies sink their teeth into to go make their case and get it over the line.
Yeah. And Kathleen, funny, I was just at See Her's member meeting yesterday, which was at Paramount. So see, if you can see her, you can be her. Very relevant.
Who else? Anyone else got a
Well,
question?
the whole See Her, Be Her is such a great movement. I helped them back in 2016 and actually introduced Andrea Brimmer to Shelley Zellis.
Oh
so
my
that
gosh.
whole 50-50 came from that introduction from years ago. So it's so fun to see it just bloom and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it works and it tells the true story. And you know what? If you look at Shelley's history in the background, her mother was a huge women's pro. Women's years ago, and she's like a little firecracker. So you gotta love it. Yeah. It's our job to lift you guys up on our shoulders to get to the next level, the next phase, and that's exactly what you're doing. So bravo.
Thank you. Kudos to you, trailblazer. And yeah, I think another thing that Shelley, and again, this research does, is creating measurement frameworks to kind of audit, recognize where you are today, follow, all of the equality scores that the Female Quotient and See Her and Sports Innovation Lab are putting together. I think nothing, at the end of the day, for a lot of these big brands, nothing sells like proof and ROI. And so the more accountability and the more measurement and tracking that we can bring alongside the narrative of it's the right thing to do and we're building a better future, the better off we'll all be.
That's actually a question that I had. Hi, this is Maura Fox, and I have a background in launching pro sports circuits and TV and cable, and delighted to be here. Mary Kate, thank you so much. I love everything you're doing. And my question is kind of that, the measuring stick, if you will. So traditional sports built on the back of linear TV, it's like you had Nielsen, you had ComScore, et cetera. How do we begin to capture and measure not just the ROI of the engagement piece, but like the entire ecosystem that can be monetized, but seems not to be measured effectively yet?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, name of the game in terms of, you know, we're not just doing things to do them, right? We're doing things to sell products that will, you know, help these brands grow. And hopefully in the, you know, as we're doing it, you know, because we're in the media side of things, but then, you know, also be able to create more surface area for fans to engage and have those things be mutually beneficial. You know, I would say, you know, we're really doing a lot of cross-platform measurement, of course, right? It's not just one or the other. We see engagement, you know, across all of our platforms. And then we also will measure, you know, social engagements and look for ways to give brands the opportunity to be on linear, in streaming, you know, partner with us to, you know, create a social extension so that you can be wherever those conversations are having and be able to measure it all. And then we're investing a lot in attribution so that there is an opportunity for brands to understand that their investment on the other side. You know, we do tons of brand lift studies and all of that to be able to showcase the, you know, effectiveness on the top end of the funnel, and then have been investing a lot in the lower funnel metrics to make sure that we can show and prove the ROAS about, you know, the ways that this is impacting your brand so that your investment is clear in terms of the impact it's making, for sure. That's a huge part of what not me personally, but so much of our team is focused on.
That's awesome. And I love the creating more space and more channels, and with a media platform like you have, there's a lot of opportunity for that. I would just add to Sports Innovation Lab, because we're looking at individual transaction data of fans, we have kind of two main areas where we're creating measurement. One is in the growth of the asset being a team or a league, where we can actually create a score that tracks the acquisition rate of first-time fans and the retention rate of existing fans. And we call this a community growth score. We also look at how much those fans spend on the property, the team or the league or the streaming platform. And what we'll do is we'll compare that to one, when a sponsor came on and when the sponsorship runs and when the season's over. And in pretty much every case right now for women's sports, the dollars and what they bought that sponsorship for and who they thought they were going to reach far exceeds who they end up reaching, because the growth of the fan base is on such a massive trajectory. And you just can't say that for other sports. And so we reframe brands and agencies buying women's sports to making an investment, because you're not just buying a product and getting that product, what you paid, you're getting more for it at the end of the day. And there's just not a lot of spaces in sports and entertainment right now where we're seeing the fan base double or triple in size from when you did that deal before the season even started. So that's one growth score we're actually publishing and working with clients on. And then the other is the value of the fan as the fluid fan. So all the brands are clamoring to reach the next gen fan and Gen Alpha. And I want these entertainment seekers and these festivalists and these, you know, vegans and these sober curious. And there's all these communities of high value future next gen fans. So we're actually segmenting the data and coming back and saying, you know, hey, Verizon, when you sponsored this women's sports tournament, you actually hit fans who look like that, who behave that way, who buy those brands. We can validate through demographics and behaviors and spending patterns that when you spend on women's sports, you reach a higher value consumer. And those things come together with the attribution, the media delivery, and all the engagement metrics that partners like Paramount can provide. And we kind of feel like, come on, like, what else is there to show you? But, you know, pony up. All right, we got a few minutes left. Maybe time for one more question or feedback or shout out or anything you want to promote.
I have a quick question regarding attribution and attribution or attributes. I would think that women in women's sports, our attributions and wanting to put money behind those female athletes is a lot less scary than it is the male athletes when it comes to behavior on and off the court, the field, the puck, the whatever the sport is. Think about that. That would be huge to do some measurement on that.
You're saying, are you saying, Kathleen, like brand safety of the athletes almost? Is that-
Lifestyle of the athlete.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Authenticity, you
Right.
know, really using those products and sticking by their values. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
fantastic research.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
There's
It
also
looks so
an
breezy
aspect
where you
of
are.
the lifetime value of each
I'm
study.
I'm outside of Tampa. It's really breezy right now. We'll have warm weather when you guys get here, though, I promise.
Woohoo! Natasha, did you have a comment?
Sorry, I was just going to jump in because this is super fascinating. The idea that the female athlete has a much longer shelf life as well, given the touch points of not only the athlete in themselves, but having a family. And so just the general life cycle and how they can become ambassadors of the sport itself and other athletes. It just kind of lends itself so much. There's so much momentum to each female athlete.
Such a great.
Absolutely.
True.
And some of the research that Ally and Andrea have published around the boardroom, you know, 80% of women that sit on boards were at least D1 or professional athletes. And so to think about that journey continuing to a professional journey, and yeah, that's probably something that could contribute to, as Kathleen was saying, this overall study of the value of the women's sports athlete as a media channel. I love that. Amazing. Anybody else before we I pull up our last slide? All right. Well, thank you, Mary Kate, again, so much. This research is fantastic. We're going to get it in everybody's hands in your inbox. We've got links and QRs, but with this entire session has been recorded, and we will follow up with that recording. We will follow up with a bunch of links. We're going to give you this deck, which has all of these links. So in summary, don't forget, register for the AI program, or if you think someone in your organization is the right person to come, or you're not sure who's to come, reach out, Gina at sportsilab.com or Women's Sports Club at sportsilab.com. We're going to send links. Some of those reports I mentioned, the Paramount report, our fan project reports, they're all free for you to download. We have a ton of addressable audiences. So if you're running media trying to reach women's sports fans and you want to add a layer of deterministic purchase attributes to that, reach out, check it out. We are publishing new women's sports audiences for your media programs all the time. We've released a media planning guide that includes a whole section on why and how to buy women's sports media this year and some of the big tentpole women's sports events. So that's free to download. Don't forget to request your own women's sports insight from our data cloud, or for a client or someone you're pitching. We'd love to create those insights for you. Don't forget about the Trailblazing Marketplace. Those are actual opportunities, inventory opportunities curated by the amazing team at Trailblazing Sports Group, all organized for you in one place that are cross-sport, cross-platform. It's an amazing marketplace that makes kind of shopping for women's sports inventory opportunities easy. They're also Trailblazing hosting an event in Tampa with their client Lily. So you can register and look to attend that. We've got other events. And that concludes our first meeting of the year for the Women's Sports Club. Thank you again, Paramount. Thank you again, all the club members and new members, for joining. And we can't wait to see a bunch of you on April 17th for our AI Advantage program kickoff. And we'll send out a date for the next virtual meeting soon. Let's go spend more on women's sports. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Great
Thank
call,
you.
Gina. Thank you.